Hi, my beautiful person. It's Layla here, and you're listening to my podcast, Always Inspired. Thank you for that, and thank you for coming back because I do know there's been quite a gap between the last episode that I recorded in English that I think aired in October last year, and now we're almost in April. But I'd rather record my episodes whenever I genuinely have something to share, when I have something to say, than doing it just for the sake of doing it, quality over quantity, they say. And I'm more than sure that we're aligned on this. So this episode is a bit unplanned. The inspiration behind it came to me yesterday when I was doing this small Q&A session in my blog, and I just realized that back in the days when I just started recording, when I just created the podcast, and I'm talking about 2019, I used to do it quite often where I would collect questions in my blog, like the most interesting ones or the ones that would be useful for majority of my listeners. And then I would answer those questions, not in my blog, but in my podcast. So I was like, why not do it again? I don't even know why I stopped at some point. So I chose a couple of questions. Yeah, I'm just going to answer them with you now. So the first question is, how do you work on your self-esteem? The thing is, I don't really believe in boosting or working on your self-esteem like it's some kind of a checklist or a level you have to unlock. I don't think that it's a skill, more like the ground that we all stand on. So when it gets unstable, we can still walk, but it's like we're always stumbling. And from a psychological point of view, self-esteem begins forming in childhood, when we understand that we are loved simply because we exist, not because we're perfect or because we have to do something to earn that love, right? But if we never had that experience, and unfortunately it's the majority of us, we grow up thinking we need to constantly prove our worth, be it with school grades, be it with good behavior or whatever. Then we grow into these adults that think that we have to continuously do and perform and, achieve in order to be loved or in order to be accepted. What I do now is much more about correcting that inner imbalance. I try to notice when I'm being too harsh with myself, when I randomly think that I did it good, but I could have done it better, or when I forget how much I've already managed. I don't try to train self-esteem. I feel like I really, really try to be fair to myself. I have to remind myself quite often that, hey, you are not a project that you constantly have to work on and constantly have to develop and constantly have to improve and da. You are a person. You don't owe this world perfection in exchange for love or acceptance because it's impossible. You are not a perfection, you will never be, and you shouldn't aim for that. One simple practice that helps me is that I ask myself, if I were my own best friend, what would I say right now? And the answer is almost always gentler and kinder than my first internal reaction, which makes me sad because this should be our default reaction. Like this kindness and gentleness towards ourselves should be our default setting when it comes to our inner monologues in our heads. And the other day, it was my day off. I woke up immediately thinking that, okay, these are the things that I need to accomplish today. These are the things that I need to do. First of all, I need to read a book, minimum 30 pages. Second, I need to clean my house. Third, I need to go do grocery shopping. I woke up with all these thoughts, not giving myself a single chance to just relax, to just let myself be, especially considering the fact that this was my one day off in a full week filled with meetings, different types of stuff that I did, and came back home with zero energy. I did so much within a week, and I had only one day where I could just rest. And rest does not mean reading a book, staying up to date with all the news, watching the latest episode of your TV series, unless you really want to. So it's not about all the chores that you have to accomplish in order to feel like you're worth it, in order to feel like you did a good job. I'm doing a good job every day. The difference between me today and me maybe a few years back is that most probably I would still wake up, get up, do all those things, get exhausted again, and then go back to work the next day. Then I would just be like, why am I frustrated? Why am I anxious? Because I don't let myself be. But the difference is that now, at least I recognize those thoughts. At least I try to help myself. At least I try to speak kindly to myself and be like, hey, you don't have to do all of that unless you really want to. You don't have to go do grocery shopping. You can order. You don't have to clean the house immediately today. You can clean it any other day, or you can hire someone to help you with that. Like, things can be done. You just don't have to do them all at once in your one day off, where the only thing that your body and mind want is to just lay and just be. I mean, I still did some chores, that being said, but I see a huge progress in my ability to sustain and manage my self-esteem, at least in recognizing and acknowledging these disturbing and destructive thoughts that sometimes I have, where I feel like I'm not enough. I try to remind myself that nobody's judging you. And even if someone is, who cares? If you want to lay the whole day in your bed and just rot and just eat junk food, do that, please. If that will make you happy today, do that. But then the next day, you're back to whatever routine it is that keeps you healthy and strong and etc. So you just have to, I always say that, but it's true. You just have to keep this inner monologue going. You just have to acknowledge your thought. You have to understand where they're coming from, which of these thoughts are really healthy for you and which are not. So the moment you reach this place in your life where you hear yourself crystal clear and you are able to manage your thoughts, put each thought into its own box, that's when your self-esteem work, or whatever you can call it, kind of starts. The second question is what to do when resentment toward a loved one will not go away. To be honest, I've never allowed any kind of resentment to take up much space in my heart, to take up so much space that it blinded me to my own life, if that makes sense. Of course, I've been hurt. I've had my heart broken. I've lost friendships. I've been disappointed. Most probably, I disappointed someone. I hurt someone as well. I mean, that's life. It happens. But I never let all those feelings define me. I never let all those feelings drain all my energy. Like, even in the middle of grief, I always kept moving forward. At work, I got promotions. I won awards. I created this podcast. I answered letters. I helped people in all possible ways. I joined meaningful projects. I just kept showing up. Even in my darkest moments, I kept showing up for myself and for others. I kept living my life. I don't deny resentment. I always acknowledge it. I give it enough space to be seen, but not enough to lead my way. I'm the one leading my life, and not my emotions, not my resentment. And when you let resentment do that, by the way, it's like you're giving power to whoever it is that you feel resentment towards to. It's like that person is leading your way. It's like you're literally just giving away all your energy into that one particular situation with that one person. I try to write. I try to process whatever it is I'm feeling. I talk it through either with my friends or during therapy, but I don't dwell on it, because for me, the most important thing is that I know who I am, and I'm never my anger. I am not my pain. I'm someone who moves. I'm someone who creates. I'm someone who keeps going, even when it hurts. And if someone has ever hurt me, I don't let that stop my life. That's not the strength for the world to admire. That's self-respect, I would say. So I would definitely recommend to just continuously, unapologetically choose yourself and not the resentment. And then another person asked, so I just want to continue something similar. How do you avoid feeling frustrated or resentful? So just to add to this whole subject, as I said, I don't try to avoid it. Emotions are signals. They are not problems. And actually, psychology also confirms this, that feelings like frustration, resentment, they're not bad. All your emotions are your data. They're just messages from inside saying, hey, something here matters. Acknowledge me, notice me. Frustration often means that you wanted something to happen and it just didn't, or you imagined it happening one way and it happened another way. And resentment is about your boundaries being crossed or you not being seen the way you wanted to be seen, right? So it's a feeling like something important to you was dismissed, and it's painful. I can relate to that. It's really painful. When those feelings show up, you don't run from them. You don't. You give them space, but you don't give them the steering wheel. Okay? For example, me, I ask myself, am I upset right now with the person or am I upset with the situation? Did I communicate what I needed or was I just silently hoping to be understood? Because this is a very, very common thing for all of us, especially children who are going through silent treatments in their families. We expect people, even though we hate this, we hate when someone's doing that to us. And this is like one of the biggest traumas that, for example, I have in my life because I've been going with my dad. I don't blame him for that because this is his coping mechanism. It used to be, but he would just go silent on me whenever something upset him, even if it did not relate to me, even if he was going through his own whatever kinds of drama he used to have back then, be it at work or with my mom. But he would just take it out on all of us by completely going silent. And this traumatized me a lot. And as much as I hated it, at some point in my life, I realized that I actually do the same freaking stuff to people that I love without acknowledging it. So I really, really worked my way with the help of therapy and a lot of other tools in order to kind of get myself out of this loop. And whenever I feel that something is bothering me, if the connection is close enough with that person, and if I care enough and that person cares enough, I'm always there to communicate. I really just want to say as much as I can before I go silent. If I see that the person does not want to understand, then I can go silent because there's only this much of energy I want to put into the relationships that I have in my life. There's always a limit, okay? And this is also something that we all have to understand. And this is correlated to the self-esteem question as well, actually, because sometimes we pour our whole heart, our whole soul into this one friendship that is just done. It finished, but we just try to revive it. And sometimes we just have to understand when the limit was reached. And most importantly, I try to ask myself, what do I actually need right now? Do I need to feel seen? Do I need to feel heard? Do I need someone's validation? What is going on? Like, again, going back to this monologue inside your head, right? Once I name the real need behind the emotion that I'm feeling, everything starts to kind of soften, and frustration becomes another direction, and resentment becomes clarity. I can actually choose what to do next, not react from my pain or bitterness, but act from place of awareness. So yeah, going back to the questions, psychologists say that every emotion carries a message. So your goal is not to suppress it or hide from it. Your goal is to hear it and then respond in a way that aligns with who you want to be. So that being said, I don't live in resentment, not because it's wrong or not because, not because I'm trying to be a bigger person and blah, 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 but because I just have more important things to do with my life than staying stuck in someone else's shadow. And this is what we're doing. As I said earlier, whenever you cannot get rid of this resentment or whatever it is that you're feeling that kind of makes your heart bitter and your days bitter, you give power to that person or that situation. And that means you literally live in someone else's shadow. And this is not what we want to do. Okay? Last question is, those were actually two different questions from two different people, and I merged them into one because they kind of talk about the same thing. How do you stop being afraid that you will fail or that nothing will work out? And how do you find the strength to face change? So when it comes to me personally, to be honest, I don't relate to fear in the way most people describe it. I don't usually sit with fear of failure or fear of change. Actually, what terrifies me more than any of that is the idea of standing still, of knowing that I had a chance to try something new, to try something bigger, something more honest, something better for my life, and I didn't. Staying somewhere that does not feel right, staying small or staying silent, that's what drains me. That's what creates like a huge fear in my heart. Of course, I've been scared before, but even in those moments, I've always had this voice inside that said, listen, you are not here to settle. You're not here to try to play safe. You are here to live. You are here to sometimes break the rules, you know? And by rules, I mean, of course, I don't mean anything illegal, a disclaimer. I mean rules that people created, like these some weird standards, especially that are pressured onto women. I want to break free from all of that and just live my life. And living fully, it means risking. It means saying yes before you're fully ready. It means choosing change over your comfort. It means trusting yourself enough to walk into complete uncertainty and just know that even if it's messy, you will always figure it out. Like one thing that I have and that I admire about myself is that whether I experience a panic attack, whether I'm in a, I don't know, in any kinds of situation that gives me frustration, I always know that the bottom line of all my worries is the fact that I will figure it out, is the fact that at the end of the day, I got my back. This is the most important thing for me. Actually, I think, again, this goes back all the way to the very first question about the self-esteem. Your self-esteem is not only about you being pretty enough, smart enough, or this or that enough, I don't know. Your self-esteem, the core, also should be where you trust yourself, where you know that whatever shit is happening in your life, you always figure it out. Always, no matter what. So people often think courage means not being afraid, but I think courage is not letting fear make your decisions for you. It's when you hear the fear, you hear it, you see it, you acknowledge it, but you don't stop. You walk anyway. I do that very often. All of my decisions so far, like I walk into new jobs. 2 years ago, I walked into a completely new city, a new version of me, a new life. Not because I'm fearless, but because I know what I want more than I fear what might go wrong. So, what helps me most in those moments is the question, will I regret not trying? And the answer is almost always yes. I would regret staying. I would regret not seeing who I could become if I just gave myself the chance. When the change calls, I try to listen. I don't wait for the perfect clarity or, I don't know, a guarantee. I move. I move even if I'm shaking, even if I'm trembling, because I trust this. Growth doesn't come when you're ready. I know it sounds very cliche, but it really comes when you move. It really just comes when you make that step forward. And when it's hard, even when it's hard, even if it doesn't go as planned, there's something deeply fulfilling in knowing that, yes, I tried, I lived, I showed up, I risked, I did it, I did it. To me, that's everything. To me, that's much more than any kind of fear I ever experienced. So, yeah, that's all for this episode. I kind of enjoyed it, and I think I'm going to do it more often. I hope you did enjoy it as well. I really hope that this was useful for you, and maybe you saw a little bit of yourself in what I shared. And you know, what I want to say before I end this episode is that I don't believe in stories where everything is easy. I don't believe that pain magically goes away. I don't believe that fear magically disappears. I believe in people who keep going. I believe in people who keep showing up, even when it hurts. I believe in people who make space for their feelings, but don't let them take over their whole story. Sometimes life breaks your heart. It's true. Sometimes people or certain situations disappoint you. But the real power is in choosing to keep going, to create, to grow, to speak, to feel, to live, to risk. And if you're currently at crossroads right now, wondering what's next, what to do, I want you to know, first and foremost, that you are okay. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be perfect. There is no such thing as perfect, by the way. This is something we all have to remember. But you do deserve to live a life that feels like yours, that genuinely feels like yours. And I believe that you can do that. Yeah, thank you again for listening.